A teenager wearing an animal mask runs through a darkened wooded park on all fours. Over the past few months, these physical gatherings, internally referred to as juntadas, have expanded into public spaces in Buenos Aires, Córdoba, and Posadas. The Argentine broadcasting apparatus immediately locked onto this movement, responding with a high-production media cycle. News networks are currently broadcasting claims that these youths are inherently violent, are suffering from mass psychosis, and signal a collapse of civilizational norms. However, these broadcast narratives stand in direct opposition to documented, peer-reviewed sociological data. To evaluate these claims, we use this evidence table. We analyze the subculture through three vectors: clinical psychiatric data, digital infrastructure, and media tracing. The data reveals the perceived public danger was manufactured to fill a specific role in the attention economy. Deconstructing this specific moral panic exposes the lucrative mechanics of modern political media manipulation. Establishing an epistemological baseline requires examining the etymology of Therianthropy, a combination of the Greek roots Therion, meaning beast, and anthropos, meaning human. It is distinct from the furry fandom. While furries engage in voluntary recreational cosplay, Therianthropy is defined as an involuntary, internal identification with a non-human animal. Argentine media figures frequently classify the subculture as a sinew mental illness, often calling for institutionalization on national television. We can test these claims against the official criteria for clinical lycanthropy in the DSM-5 TR. Clinical lycanthropy requires a literal, active delusion that the physical body is transforming into an animal. The Therion community explicitly rejects this notion. Documentation shows that Therians retain complete awareness of their human biology. They do not seek legal or surgical transitions to animal status. Sociologists describe the media's approach as the medicalization of deviance. By labeling eccentric behavior as a psychiatric defect, pundits use the authority of pseudo-medicine to justify the social control of youth expression. Psychiatrist Dr. Francisco Guarini instead frames the phenomenon through the decline of symbolic organizers. As traditional social structures like religious narratives and national histories erode, they leave an identification void for modern youth. Adopting a narrative identity based on an animal figure provides a sense of belonging and a set of internal rules in an increasingly fractured cultural landscape. The community's organizational depth contradicts the media's framing of a mindless TikTok trend. In Buenos Aires, the Sol Solar Pack includes members ranging from age 11 to 30, indicating a demographic that spans well beyond the current digital algorithm. This group maintains a centralized digital hub, the comunidadtherian.com portal. The portal features a tool to generate a DNI Therian, a mock-up identity card where users select their species from a predefined taxonomy and enter a date of awakening. This is an exercise in parallel institutionalism, where a subculture constructs mimicking structures of state authority to validate its own existence. The artifact borrows the exact visual language of the official Argentine national identity document. It simulates barcodes, state ministry headers, and machine-readable zone codes, translating a subjective spiritual feeling into a concrete, shareable aesthetic of legitimacy. The portal also uses client-side rendering for its image processing. Photos are processed strictly on the user's device and are never uploaded to a server, a literate technological safeguard designed to protect minors from doxing. This engineering proves the community is seeking a structured, community-validated identity, moving far beyond the feral behavior described on the news. To sustain public outrage, media networks utilize a process called transnational panic-laundering. This is most visible in the persistent claim that public schools are installing litter boxes in restrooms to accommodate feline-identifying students. Panic laundering involves intentionally stripping the original context from a foreign event in order to artificially manufacture a local threat. The litter box myth originated in 2021 during school board debates in the United States regarding gender identity policies. In reality, U.S. school districts stockpiled cat litter as an emergency biological hazard measure for students trapped during active shooter lockdowns. Commentators stripped away that context, exported the meme, and integrated it directly into the Latin American media ecosystem. Local broadcasters then apply the hasty generalization fallacy. News networks have used a single, unverified schoolyard biting incident in Cordoba to characterize an entire trans-provincial community of hundreds. This coverage saturates the airwaves alongside volatile macroeconomic policy shifts and controversial labor reforms. This algorithmic rage bait generates high retention at a low cost. It fills airtime and captivates public attention, effectively sidelining deep reporting on macroeconomic policy and worker protections. The psychiatric data, the digital infrastructure of the PAC, and the media's reliance on imported myths points to a consistent reality. The perceived public threat of the Therian subculture was manufactured by the commercial attention economy. We are observing a localized response to a modern identity crisis. Isolated by imposing urban environments and a lack of stable social futures, these youths utilize the animal world as a template for belonging. This subculture fills an identification void created as traditional social anchors erode, offering disenfranchised youth a sense of internal order. The media crusade sustains high viewership by weaponizing this search for identity, transforming a private internal discovery into a public vector for rage.